Hey guys, Dr. Ben here. Welcome. So excited to talk to you about anxiety and come from a totally different perspective than anything you've heard on this. And this will be groundbreaking to a lot of you. If you're dealing with anxiety or a loved one's dealing with anxiety, someone you know, watch this video, share them into this video, tag them in this video, and we will get it out to the masses because this is really revolutionary when we start thinking about where anxiety comes from. All right, for those of you that are watching, yes, that is snow back behind me. Here in Colorado, we had about a foot of snow last night. Thank goodness, hopefully putting out the forest fires. All right, so anxiety. Everybody knows somebody that's got anxiety. Everybody knows somebody that's been dealing with some type of being anxious. Guess what? It's 2020. We've had COVID. We've had forest fires all over the country. We've got elections. Everybody you know is dealing with anxiety. Give me a thumbs up out there if any of you or some loved one that you know is dealing with anxiety. I mean, it's rampant out there. But I'm going to shift that thought process you have of the brain being wired the wrong way or neurotransmitters not working like they're supposed to, and really show you where a lot of this anxiety is coming from. So, all right, here we go. Anxiety is a response to a threat. So this is a survival technique, something that's been around for millennia, and it's really designed to save us as a human species. So let's say that mountain lion's charging down the path. You guys may have seen that one. Hey Barb, good to see you. This mountain lion's going down the path and chasing this guy, and he's sitting there recording it. Guess what? He's going to have a little anxiety. He's going to have this inflammatory process going on. And that's where a lot of anxiety is actually coming from. It's a response to a threat. And it's basically the whole body can be on fire. And this is one of the reasons why when we start talking about anxiety or even depression from a functional medicine perspective, you can't do it just with a supplement. Here, take this GABA. Here, take any of these psychological changing supplements, medications obviously, but ultimately you've got to address that whole body perspective and get the inflammation down. So anxiety is an inflammatory process, meaning that inflammation is going to be driving this threat response, and then it's going to be driving this exaggerated reaction that happens. We always say that the number one stressor to the adrenal glands is blood sugar swings. So blood sugar swinging up and down causes the adrenals to kick out adrenaline, kick out cortisol. But what does that feel like to the person? Well, that's going to feel like random anxiety. And random anxiety can hit at various times. Even in the middle of the night, people will wake up with their heart racing. They'll wake up in a hot flash, things like that. So this is ultimately about cytokines. So stick with me. I'm going to get a little scientific here, guys. This is about cytokines. We've heard about cytokine storms. I've been talking about cytokine storms for months now, way back in March. Hey, Brian, good to see you out there, buddy. So the cytokine storm, we've talked about this with COVID, and where after that 5, 6, 7 days of somebody having COVID, and if it gets out of control, they get this cytokine storm. Cytokine storm is going to be this inflammatory process. So the cytokines, we have cytokines on every cell in the body. They're either pro-inflammatory or they'll decrease inflammation. And what happens with COVID-19 is that inflammatory process really gets cranked up there, and it's going to start causing fluid on the lungs and all these different things. So ultimately, COVID is not a lung disease. It doesn't cause lung disease. It causes that inflammatory process, which causes that fluid on the lungs. So ultimately, we need to accelerate the cytokines into the anti-inflammatory process. And how do we do that? Well, some of that is going to be an anti-inflammatory diet. And what would an anti-inflammatory diet look like? Because pro-inflammatory is going to increase the cytokines. That's why people that have the worst diets, that are overweight, that have high blood pressure, all these things have worse outcomes with COVID. Same thing with the anxiety process. And so when we get these cytokines revved up, cytokines are going to stimulate that anxiety in the brain. It's going to stimulate this threat response. And so that's really where anxiety comes from. It's not from, ooh, I'm hardwired the wrong way or any of these different things. It's a threat response. response, and the body's saying, hey, you better get yourself ready to go. And what could that look like? Well, you could get sweaty palms, your pupils are going to get bigger, your heart rate's going to get going, you're going to be like, okay, what am I going to do here? Am I going to sword fight? Am I going to, how am I going to deal with this attack that's coming at me? It's a threat response. So insulin resistance is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to drive that cytokine storm. And so what is that? Well, insulin resistance comes not just from processed foods, but also from anything that's going to spike the blood sugar up. And we use a blood sugar monitor with every patient, and we know that insulin resistance is going to be from this blood sugar spike through there. So this is also going to come, I haven't talked about this much before, I probably should do a video on it, also come from omega-6 fats. So we've got omega-3, which are flaxseed, fish oil, things like that, but the vegetable oils are going to promote omega-6 production, which is going to be more pro-inflammatory. That's why all the vegetable oils, all the corn oil, soybean oil, all these different oils are actually really problematic for a lot of people with their inflammatory process. So we've got to stabilize the blood sugar, we've got to get the right kind of fats, and this is actually going to calm down. Hey Prongo, good to see you out there. This is actually going to calm down a lot of our anxiety and calm down this threat response, because these cytokines get revved up and start causing the brain to get into this fight or flight process. Pain is going to be another part of this. So if you know anybody that's in chronic pain, send them this video, because it's the same process. Pain is going to be more a perception. It's going to be a perception that the body is in this cytokine storm. They're going to be more inflamed. You know, if you look at somebody and if you could see and just tell how inflamed they were, if you lined up 10 people, you could pinpoint the amount of pain that each one of those people is going to be in just by looking at them and getting a good feel of how much inflammation is in their body. So we always say pain is a perception. You could have the exact same back degeneration in somebody's lumbar spine. Some people are going to have tons of pain, other people won't have any at all. Almost every single patient we work with in the first 30 days, their pain response goes down dramatically. Hey Becky, good to see you down there in Tempe. Hope you're doing well, and yes, this is snow back there, so I really doubt you're getting any of that in Tempe. So anxiety response, pain response, all of these things are because of inflammation. They're not just that it's our brain's issue in there. So we've got to get this inflammatory process, get this cytokine storm calmed down for every single person out there, and that's our goal. So we need to replace adrenaline, cortisol, the histamines and the inflammatory cytokines with growth hormone, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, all these good nourishing neurotransmitters and good hormones that are going to be really, really helpful for the body. And so how do we do that? Well, by switching the body out of this threat response and this chronic stress, and this is what happens in our society. Even sitting here watching Facebook and social media and all these different things is going to drive up this cytokine storm. It's going to drive up this threat response, because what happens is that whether it's an emotion or a perceived threat or a stress about something, the brain doesn't know the difference whether it really is the mountain lion coming to get you, or it's you just sitting there, oh my gosh, who's going to get elected? Who's going to get elected? What's going to happen bad? Oh my gosh, what if there's another spike in COVID? Whatever you're sitting there stressing about, your brain doesn't know whether it's truly from that or whether it's from just this thought process. And that's what can happen, is this thought process is going to drive just as much inflammation and just as much stress in the body as truly being attacked by a mountain lion or having to sword fight somebody or anything else. So for those of you jumping on, I am in Colorado and this is a foot of snow behind me. So hopefully that doesn't stress you guys out at all. So remember, anybody just jumping on, anxiety is a response to a threat. It's a whole body. The body body is on fire and it's going to be going into this fight or flight response. And this is why if you're getting treated for anxiety, or someone you know is getting treated for anxiety in the traditional medical model or in the natural medicine world, you've got to be addressing the whole body. You've got to be looking at the entire process that is contributing to this inflammatory cascade and ultimately this cytokine storm. So whether it's anxiety, whether it's bipolar, whether it's schizophrenia, these are all inflammatory processes. These are not brain conditions. These are inflammatory processes that the inflammation needs to be calmed down, stabilize the blood sugar. You need to do relaxation techniques, mindfulness, eat an anti-inflammatory diet. You need to get that body in as calm a state as possible, and that threat response will start going down. And that's where the magic starts taking place. That's where people are able to get rid of their anxiety without taking medication, without having to go on all these herbs and supplements and medicines and all types of different things. So you've got to get the inflammation down. So this process that we're looking at is to take the body out of this cytokine storm, out of this fight or flight response, start calming it down, and the anxiety will start going away. So that's why we do all the things we do with neurofeedback, with the brain map. We can train the brain to not go to this exaggerated response to this fight or flight. So it's not really training away anxiety, it's training away the fight or flight. And that's the cool part about doing neurofeedback. Hey Cindy, good to see you out there. It's not about training the brainwaves to get rid of anxiety. It's training the brainwaves to get out of fight or flight, to downregulate that threat response. If you or a loved one is dealing with autoimmune, this is the same thought process. Almost every single patient that comes in with autoimmune, they are having this exaggerated brain response where they're going into this fight or flight all the time. Guess what that does to the immune system? Revs up that immune system and gets it cranking in there. So you've got to calm it down. You've got to get that balanced out, and that'll make huge difference throughout the whole process. So hope you guys are doing great today. If you have snow, enjoy it. If you don't, enjoy not having snow. But thanks for jumping on. Anybody that you know, anxiety, emotional states that are out of control, share this video with them. Give them hope that is not just in their brain, it's in their body, and we've got to stabilize that. So make it a great day, everybody.